Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Create and Grow Your Dream Business podcast. I'm super excited to be here today. We have a very special guest. Her name is Miss Gloria, and today we will be speaking about reaping the harvest of self-assurance. So, Gloria, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So excited to have you here. So excited to have you share your knowledge with the audience. So before we jump right in into this very juicy topic, allow the people to know more about you, where you're from, or whatever it is that you would like to share to help them connect with you on a deeper level.
Yeah, so my name is Gloria from Amani Upendo Wellness. I'm a Christian wellness coach. I've been doing this for a couple of years now. Just sharing my knowledge on how anybody can achieve wellness, regardless of where you are now or where you're coming from. You can reach your goals. And I'm here as a coach. What my job as a coach is to really work with you to reach that goal.
Yes, I love that. So when we spoke in our previous like initial meeting, we had some really great pointers, and I would love to share some of that information with the audience. So I would love for us to start by my baby's laughing. I would love for us to start by um I remember you mentioning people being aware of the learning season. So as we are speaking about the concept of growing from within, right? If they're growing, if they're gardeners, if we're growing in life, growing from children to maturity, we're growing from some people like non-Christians, non-religious to believers, right? There's always that level of growing. Can you explain to the people how important it is to one, be aware of the level of growth that they must go through and be aware that learning is a season to go through?
Yeah, I mean, in general, it's as you said, awareness. Awareness is key. That level of awareness comes in stages. Um, it really does come in stages, and it's kind of like I describe it as like knowing your cues. Again, it's not something that, I would expect as a coach or even as an individual that you would know right away. I'm also in that place of transition and learning where I still sometimes have to remind myself, about my cues and understanding cues. It could be in a conversation. As a basic illustration, you're talking with someone, okay, it's first I speak, then you speak, or vice versa. That's that awareness. It's an example, an illustration of that awareness, and just being able to say, okay, what is my cue in this circumstance? What is my cue in this situation? So if we're connecting it back to wellness and maybe even self-assurance, um, if you find yourself in a place where you feel that you're struggling, you find that you're more stressed, you find that you're more um, on edge,
Mm,
that's a call for you to really become more aware and decide, okay, what is it that I need to do in terms of my self-care in this situation?
mm.
So those are some of the ways that having awareness can really help you move forward in life.
Yes, I love that. And you're leading right into the next point that I was going to bring. You also spoke about how it's hard for people to recognize their or to be aware because of their fears or their trauma. So we hear that all the time, right? Especially for people who are attempting to heal or move forward, people they may hear very often like you got to acknowledge your fears or you probably went through some trauma. But can you give some examples of what that really could look like or what that blockage could look like for a person who is wanting to heal? Like what have you seen in your practice?
Well, I mean, trauma is I think when people think of trauma, they think it's, oh, this big scary moment, you know, living with like traumas or any kind of limiting belief. It's really the root is a limiting belief, can be connected to fear, can be connected to many other things, maybe entitlement, privileges. It's not so much about trauma, this scary thing that happened. It could just be, it's a limiting belief. But anyways, with that being said, it does play a role in people's awareness because if I were to kind of put you in a space where you're triggered emotionally, psychologically, physically, you're triggered, and now ask you to walk in a straight line, for example, what do you think your ability is going to be like to really walk on that straight line? It's like being intoxicated. You know, if I get you intoxicated, if someone's intoxicated and now you ask them to walk in a straight line, it's not that they're incompetent and it's not that they can't, they don't understand what the task is, but it's just they're in another space right now where the ability to really focus and do the right thing or do what's required is limited because they're intoxicated and they're literally in another zone almost. So that's how I would describe, that's that connection between like traumas, fears, and awareness.
That was a great example. I mean, that was a really great example. So I would like to take that even a little bit deeper. So let's say
Mhm,
someone does, they feel like they're in that phase of intoxication, right? Where
mhm,
they're like, okay, I know that mentally I have a lot of limiting beliefs. Physically, I just do not like the way I look. I don't like what I eat. I don't like how I feel when I wake up in the morning. Financially, I don't like where I work. I don't like what I do. Relationship wise, I don't like who I'm in a relationship with. It's like a
mhm.
person who has not only had like tequila at the bar, but they had tequila and they had Hennessy and they were smoking cigarettes and they were smoking weed and they might have did other.
Everything all at once. Yeah, for sure.
How does a person become aware that they're they're foreign? What does that look like?
I mean, there's no timeline. I'm not going to sit here and like, I would never, I can't lie to people. I can't lie to them and say, oh, well, just give it an hour. Sit down and meditate for an hour. It'll get better. It's not really like that. Um, Getting to that place where you're aware of where you've been, what you're going through, and where you're trying to go, it's a process. It's really hard to say like what the timeline will be for that person or people in terms of like healing and in terms of moving forward in life. But the main thing is to start. I really advocate, on all of my platforms and throughout my practice, I advocate that people start today. It's not something that you will get perfect, but it's best that you start. The main thing is that you start and you try one like little things every day, little things every moment will help you to really connect with maybe it's reality, but connecting to that like awareness, an awareness of who you are, where you are, what you're trying to do. I remember being in those places in my life and it was difficult. I mean, in a lot of ways, I guess I could say that I'm still transitioning, I'm still learning, but it's not a 1 day thing. There's no 6 month plan. The plan is just really start today. That's how I would say it. You just start today. And the sooner you start, the sooner you'll get to that place.
Yes, I love that. It couldn't get any more like real or realistic than that, right? Because it's just like gardening. We can expect to plant a tomato seed and have tomatoes tomorrow, right? But we
Yeah,
know it's
yeah.
inevitable just because of the
Hmm,
way that God made the earth, that if you plant those seeds, you will
hmm,
reap the harvest. But it takes work, it takes time. And sometimes the hardest part that we want to go through is the taking of the time, right? Like, and because the same way people have fear of the past or reliving that past experience is the same way people have the fear of what it's going to take to accomplish the goal, what it's going to take to heal, what does wellness look like, what are some of the people, places, and things that may need to be sacrificed in the meantime. Who can they no longer show up as? Who will they show up as? How will people perceive them? How will people judge them? There's so much that comes into like healing and moving forward that can scare a person, but I truly believe that this topic today is what makes it so powerful because it's like now we can dive into the concepts of self assurance. So, when I was doing a little bit of research yesterday and today, I really like got the concept of self assurance that it's someone's like true feelings and confidence within themselves in their own abilities. And I think that's powerful because I believe that we're in a time and a space where there's so much like comparison to others. And so sometimes it's hard for people to show up authentic as who they are. And I feel like self assurance is when you recognize that you and I can do the same thing, but we exude two different vibrational frequencies and we have two different skills, we have two different talents. And even if we did have the same both of us would have to be assured in ourselves in our ability to be able to just show up as ourselves. So I think that's the power of self-assurance. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in order to, as you mentioned, in order to really assure yourself, you have to be aware of yourself. Whoever you are, wherever you're coming from, you have to be aware of your experience. And that is how you're ultimately going to be able to maintain your self-care and get to that place where you can really say, this is who I am.
Mhm.
This is the package that I come with. And you're not asking the world to necessarily take you as you are. You are asking for, you're not even asking anything of people. You're coming in and you are um, demanding the respect that you deserve because you're aware of who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so powerful. And I would say that I can relate to that as well because I remember when I first started off in business in 2020, um I was a finance coach. I was very passionate about helping women learn how to balance their like daily paychecks or their excuse me, like their weekly or monthly paychecks. I was very much so into like assets, liabilities, helping women understand that like you can manage money and even if you didn't come from a household where you learned to do it, it's something that you can do. But that's when like as I got deeper into helping women, what I really realized is that I was helping women build the confidence enough to recognize that they can create another stream of income. Well, as I was growing within my practice and like hiring coaches and defining myself, I found myself looking at other coaches, looking at other women, seeing things that other women were doing and how they were showing up. And it was when I learned to anchor myself into who I was and recognizing, like, Bria, what you help women with is their confidence. These other women may not verbalize this, they may show up a different type of way. They may have their Lexuses and their big houses, and it may seem like they're flying all over everywhere and doing everything. But it wasn't until I became secure in who I was, how I helped women, that I, like you said, was able to be consistent with my self-care, right? Because then I recognized that who I was showing up as was just me. And as long as I worked on me, that was fine. But when we live inside of a space of like comparison to others and not really knowing ourselves, it's so hard for us to reap the benefits of self-assurance.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely. Yeah, competition is definitely a confidence killer.
Yeah.
Competition is definitely the opposite of, being confident or instilling confidence. There are different levels to competition. Sometimes competition is something that's internal, like internally, there's just so much propaganda around us. Magazines, you go into any store, there's magazines of like skinny women, ideal women, the way they look in their swimsuits or whatever, Sports Illustrated models or whatever. Anywhere you go, there are billboards of like, skincare this or whatever have you. Like there's so many things that are thrown at us to tell us what we should look like or how we should be, especially at our age or stages in life. It could be external, right? Those are examples of external, but it could also be internal, just um, maybe something that you've learned, a limiting belief inside of you that you've learned. Maybe how you were raised in your home, you were raised to always be competing with your cousins and competing with so and so or the neighbors' kids, or like, oh, they went to college or university and you didn't. Or and I grew up in those types of environments. I was surrounded by that type of stuff for a long time. And it took me a long time to realize that like it's not about what other people are doing. It's about where you're at and where your abilities are. And once you get to that place, I found that I had much more growth when I was not worried about, what other people were doing or what level they were functioning at. I was able to actually thrive. So yeah, that would definitely be another huge point.
Yes, that was so great. And as you talk about growing and thriving, because oof, you are so right. I'm just right there still for a little second because I was the same way. Like the
Mm,
moment I realized, Bria, you gotta focus on yourself, girl. Even the more, like
yeah.
think you're focusing on yourself, but then like as you grow, and I'm talking about like from 18 to 21, 21 to 25, 25 to 30, 30 to 35, 35 to 40, like those stages of maturity in life, like you said earlier in the podcast, it's ever growing, right? You don't just become 40 years old and now all of a sudden you got it figured out and like you can just ride this wave for the rest of your life. Even psychologically, there are just changes physically, emotionally, mentally that the body will take us through to have us change what's important to us. And I truly believe
Yeah.
that it is through us operating in purpose because there's a lot of ways to make money when you really think about it, right? But like
Oh
when
yeah.
you purpose driven, purpose and self-assurance lines up so much because it'll purpose will keep you going when you want to stop. Purpose will keep you going when you're just like, why am I doing this? I feel myself off track. I'm not seeing any growth. People aren't latching on to what I want. I'm discombobulated. Purpose keeps you going. And so I truly believe what you said is so powerful. And I really hope that the women in the listening to the podcast really grasped onto what you said, that there's so much growth when you start to focus on yourself and let go of your past experiences.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's not, there's nothing wrong with saying, oh, past, past. Like I've had one thing I've had, just to touch on that, one thing I've had people say to me, as an example, is get over it. Okay,
Mm,
this happened, get over it, get over it, get over it. And it's like, well, it's not to say that like, number one, your past defines you, or because of the things you've gone through in the past that you can't go somewhere in the future. But understand that our past is what makes us. Even in the Bible, like the Bible is a past, the Bible is history, but it still makes up so much of our faith. It's a part of our faith and it's a part of who we are. So it's not about denying, but at the same time, it's not about like highlighting. It's just about understanding that, okay, this is something I went through. I remember being in a place in my life where I had experienced like a crime, hate crime, I guess you could even say, a lot of violence. There was a lot of violence, and there were a lot of things that I had gone through that would be defined as trauma. If I were to sit down and I were to spell out everything that I had gone through, I think it would make you understand why people would say, okay, she's traumatized. You would have to, some of the things that I've gone through, you would have to just sit down and agree and say, okay, that's trauma. Not because I was holding on to my trauma for dear life because I didn't want to let it go, but because these were legitimate things that had happened. It wasn't because I was holding on to it. These are things that had happened. After those things happened, I went through this transition of understanding that, okay, that was my experience.
mhm.
It affected me and it affected how I behaved. It affected how I lived life and how I did life. But am I going to live every day as if maybe it didn't happen or it didn't affect me? No, I'm going to move past that. You can move past those things. You don't have to necessarily relive them in order to like give life to those things, right? To say, oh, remember when I went, you don't have to necessarily do that. But at the same time, it doesn't mean you have to deny how you felt and
Yeah.
deny what you went through. Like I said, being a life coach, you were a financial coach, so you probably understand this as well. It's similar to psychology. You understand psychology, you understand psychology and counselors, and that's what they really do. They give you that advice. They give you that advice to understand, okay, well, at the end of the day, you went through those things, but you can move past them, and moving past them is what is going to build you into becoming who you really are and your better self.
Yes, I love that. And to even piggyback a little bit off of what you said when others may say like get over it. I think a part that helps us heal and be well is recognizing that if someone else did not directly go through the experience that we went through, we have to learn to not take it personal when they verbalize to get over it, right? Because they didn't feel what we felt. And oftentimes it's hard to move forward because again, the epigenetics of the situation, the people around us, we are so tied to, and it's human nature, right? To care
Yeah.
what others think, to attach ourselves to what others think, what others feel. But if you really want to heal, if you really want to like reap the harvest of confidence, reap the harvest of self-assurance, and really be confident in your own abilities, one of the four agreements is to not take anything personal. And when we get into that space of recognizing, like, I'm not going to take it personal what this person says, I'm not going to take it personal what that person says. I know personally what I've been through, but I also know personally that I'm working on overcoming. And even just taking the concept when they say get over it. Okay, I'm going to get over it. All right, I'm going to go over that hump. Now that you've said that,
Literally. Yeah.
I'm going to view it a different type of way. And I'm going to say, yes,
Yeah.
thank you for the empowerment. I'm going to get over the trauma so that way I can get to my new space.
Literally, yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's, it's as a coach, but even from coach to coach, but also from coach to like a client, for example. 1000%, you have to get to that place where you put your head in that space. You got to get into that mental space and say, it might not be fair. It might not be fair what you went through, but understand they don't need to know your experience. They don't need to understand your experience. It's yours, and it's right now your job to move past it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. This is so good. We still got some more goodies to give out, but when I tell you this is so good, I could just got chills about it because I could think about how many like females I know, just like personally and professionally, who once I send them this podcast, they are going to be like, yes, I needed to hear that, right? Um,
Well, I'm
so
glad.
let's
I'm glad.
yes, let's merge over. So the ladies have listened. They've said, you know what? Breye'l and Gloria told me to get over it. I'm getting over it. Right? And so now that they're over it, and we talked about this in a pre-episode too, so I would love for you to share because I know you got some deep things on this.
Hmm.
Let the ladies know your like number one perspective of what you feel will be a reward that they will reap from learning to have self-assurance.
Well, the number one reward, there's so many benefits. There's so many benefits, just like with your brand, to keep it on brand. It's just like gardening. There's so many benefits of gardening, right? One of the benefits, something that comes to mind, confidence. Um, Once you get over it, you're gonna be able to live your life in a way where like it's not to say that you don't care, like, oh, I don't have shame and I don't have social cues per se, but you're not gonna be living your life based off of those things because you've transcended to a place where you realize people are going to criticize me whether I do all the right things or whether I do all the wrong things. They will have something to say about me if I follow the rules or if I become like a rebel or something, you know what I mean? Or perceive me to be in either one of those places. They're going to have something to say. They're going to have something to like critique me about or give me constructive criticism about. So you transcend to a place and at that mental space, as we spoke on, where you're like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do what's best for me in every circumstance, no matter what, regardless of how it makes them feel or what they think about what I'm doing or whatever. I'm going to do what's best for me. So confidence is one of them. And I think that's one of the biggest ones. I probably could come up with a list of them, but right now the main thing is definitely confidence to say like, you know what, when you begin to get when you get over that stage and you get past that stage of getting over it, you definitely will see your self-confidence just really just grow.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And even with the confidence, one thing I've learned is that confidence is ever growing, just like the garden as well, right? When I think about how confident I was, and even if I backtrack to like, and I want to share this story, especially for the girlies who can really relate with this one. When I was in high school and I graduated from like a really small high school because it was like a dual enrollment program. So it was like a program or organization, not a traditional like 100 graduation student program. It was like 22 of us in our
Oh,
graduation.
okay.
I can distinctly remember feeling in high school that I was different, right? I graduated 2011. We in 2024, so we're talking well over 10 years. I still can remember that I was different. I remember girls treating me like I was different. I wasn't part of the it crew, right? Like they was like, oh, Breye'l, whatever. We're over here and she's over there type vibes, right? But I knew and I stood on business that who I was still a great person. And even though these people didn't want me in their clique, I still was enough for me and all of the other weirdos that I hung out with, right? In a sense. And so
Hmm.
as I got older, I still recognized that who I was different than the average person. My personality, my pizzazz, my spunk, I was just different still. But when I started to become confident in my difference, I started to
Hmm.
step outside of the parameters and recognize exactly what you said. People are going to judge me regardless. I remember being in college and I used to wear like my weave, my lashes, like my makeup, all that type of stuff. And I felt myself trying to like compete and keep up with the other girls who like hair was super laid. And that's when I recognized like, okay, I can't do this. let me go back to a shortcut. Slowly but surely, I just started cutting and cutting it, and then I would wear like a molded down look. And I said, well, no, I can mold it. I can go bald. I've been bald since 2015, right? And now
Okay.
people see me as like super confident. They're like, "You're so confident for cutting your hair. You're so confident." And it's like, I think back to, wow, I remember those times where I had to be confident within myself when people didn't see me as someone they wanted to hang out with. Now, those same girls, literally Sunday that just went by, I linked up with the girls from high school, and they were like, "You got a husband? You got a baby? You're doing your business? Help me. How did you get this? How did you get that?" And so I want to empower anybody listening to this that you may feel different. You may feel like what you're doing is not something that other people are doing. But when you are assured within yourself and within your abilities to move forward, sometimes your confidence level is a two. And then you work on healing
Mm.
yourself. You hire a wellness coach. You hire someone that can help you grow your faith, help you grow your understanding. And then next thing you know, your confidence a four, then it's a five, then it's a seven. And then next thing you know, you might be right here bald headed just like me. Like, hey, I can do this.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, we kind of went on the same journey. I mean, it's the same way it was for me in high school. I went through the phases. I did the cheerleading thing. I tried cheerleading, didn't stick with it because I didn't roll with that crowd. When they were doing their like end of year stuff and all their little parties, like it never fit with me. And that's why I guess that's also why like certain things, if you notice, with certain Christians, like I don't know how to explain it, but like that's why certain things don't work for me because I'm not supposed to be in that group.
Yes.
It doesn't work for a reason. Sometimes there are certain relationships, they don't work for a reason. You don't click for a reason. You're not able to like maintain something with someone for a reason. It's not because something's wrong with you, it's just you're not meant to be with that group. Um, not to say that you're like so, bourgeoisie and posh and you're so much better. It's just you're not, not everybody, you can't relate with everybody, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in saying, like, I can't relate with you. I can't be friends with you or whatever. It could just be a call for you to focus on yourself. You said, I mean, I've seen the baby, I've met the baby. You said you're married as well. Like maybe it's just time for you to grow yourself.
Yeah.
And I would always prefer to be in a place where I was growing myself and developing myself rather than just like hanging out with my friends or whatever. They're great, they're great, and having all those things is great, but I would prefer to, obviously like have skills and develop myself as well.
Yes. Oh, I'm telling you, that self development is so powerful. So even with
Yeah.
that, okay, now the ladies, they've listened. They understand now they have to go on that journey of self. Can you talk to them about the power of organization? What does that look like? How does that come into play? Because again, when we talk wellness, it's easy to kind of just be like, well, I'm working on my fitness, so it might be hard for me to work on my mindset. Or I'm working on my mindset, it might be hard for me to work on my emotions. I'm working on my emotions, it might be hard for me to work on my finances. So like, how does
Yeah.
being organized help with self-assurance?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, 100%. Whether it makes me more relatable or not, I know what it's like to be in those places where everything, I think they had a movie about it, everything all at once and everywhere, something like that. But like when everything is happening all at once and it's just like stimulation overload. You're not
Mhm.
able to even, sit down and focus. Your finances are a mess, but you also have to work on your mental health or it affects your mental health, right? It could be one incident that happens, but it triggers a bunch of other things. So organization, how does organization really play a part in that? Well, being organized in your thoughts, being organized in your emotions, setting plans, setting goals, understanding what your goals are. That's why as a coach, that's my job is to sit with you and help you to understand, okay, what is it you really even need? What is it you're even really going for? Um, what is it that you're going for in terms of your fitness level? Are you going to the gym because you're trying to lose weight? Are you going to just having a social setting, whatever it is? Like, what is your goal? Being organized in your workplace or in your spaces. I think we briefly spoke on how, being organized in your home is also a reflection of where your mind can be. Not always, there are some people, and there are times for me where I've been a little disheveled in terms of my space, but I was clear-headed. I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was doing. But of course, it helps, right? It
Right.
helps. It's like a rule of thumb, obviously, right? If your habits are in the right place in one area, more than likely you'll be able to apply it everywhere else. It's just a rule of thumb. I mean, a thumb. I mean, if I'm gonna like, sweep my floors every day, it's just a good thing to do rather than waiting to just do it once a month. It's just that's just how it is, obviously, right? So being organized, it's a part of your development. It's a part of your wellness. It can be organization in your workplace, in your home, organization of just even starting in your closet, in your wardrobe, and
Yeah.
organizing your outfits. Little things that
Yeah.
really honor yourself and respect yourself. It's a form of your self-care. Little things every day to organize your life. That's a little tip for your viewers. That is going to just kickstart your journey. You will sense it and you will feel that growth and feel that love, that self-love, when you just start. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to go out and buy all of the little organization shelves and the containers, although I have some of them.
Me
But it's not something it's not something you really have to do. You can just start. It starts inside and it starts with the little things you do and your habits and your mindset and all of that, and it comes outward too.
Ooh, for sure. It comes
Yeah.
outward. I think from right there, I think now would be the perfect time for you to let the ladies know how can they get started with you?
Well, I mean, I'm here, I'm a Christian wellness coach. I'm coming from a place where I'm not perfect, but I'm going into a space where it's collaborative. Regardless of where I'm coming from, I have a collaborative space. My website, amaniupendowellness.com, has all of my resources um, and available for collaboration in very many different ways. For your viewers, besides the very candid conversations we've had, for your viewers, I'm also offering a 50% off promo. So if they get in touch and use the code wellness in caps, go on my website, you'll see a little space there where you can book your space for a coaching session. You'll get 50% off.
Okay.
Just use the code wellness in caps. But I also have a giveaway. I have a free ebook that I'm giving away. I just need people to get in touch with me, fill out a form, tell me about yourself, let me know that you heard about me from Breye'l,
Yeah.
and I have a free ebook for them. So yeah, those two goodies available for your viewers, and I hope that it would bless them because again, I'm always looking to collaborate. I'm always looking to also learn. Working with people really helps me to learn about myself.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Gloria, for coming
My
on.
pleasure.
This
My
chat
pleasure.
was so powerful. I'm telling you, as soon as we get off, I wrap it up in a couple of days. I'm gonna be sending it out. I'm not even gonna wait to post it on the social media sites. I'm gonna be sending the people I know personally, like, hey, tune in.
Sooner the better, because that code is active now. And yeah, I'd love for people, again, it's mutual, it's mutually beneficial, right? I would love to learn, I'd love to sit down and hear and work with people, right? So yeah.
That's going to be so perfect. So, for everyone
Mhm.
tuning in, we thank you for listening to this podcast episode. We hope that you got some amazing jewels, amazing nuggets out of this. Gloria, she is here to help you. As she said, it's a collaborative energy. So, those are people that you want to connect with. If you know that you're ready to start reaping the harvest, the confidence harvest, and the self assurance harvest. So, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you later. Thank you,
All right.
Gloria.
My pleasure.